The Bible tells us that in the days of Noah, the sons of God married the daughters of men, which led to the Nephilim giants walking the earth. But did you know that before this, 235 years before the flood, these same sons of God worshipped female deities? They had idols in their homes with multiple sets of breasts. They even held festivals in her honor with wild dancing and drinking. And they were so depraved that when the Lord destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, he spared Lot's life only because he was a relative of Abraham and because he was righteous in his own eyes. No, just kidding. That last part is not true. Lot was wicked, but God spared him because he was related to Abraham. But who was this Canaanite goddess that the sons of God worshipped, and why did she have two sets of breasts? To answer these questions, I'm going to tell you about Astarot, the most popular Canaanite goddess. Now, before we get into it, make sure to click like if you haven't already, and make sure to click subscribe if you want to see more videos about the hidden secrets of the Bible. Canaan was the son of Ham, the son of Noah, and he became the ancestor of the Canaanites, the people group that lived in the land God promised to Abraham and his descendants. The Canaanites worshipped many gods and goddesses, but their most popular was a fertility goddess by the name Astarot. She was a very sexual goddess that was usually depicted with two sets of breasts, like the idol the sons of God worshipped in their homes. One of her most popular shrines was in the city of Sidon, where the people celebrated her with wild parties. In fact, during one of these parties, King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, according to the Bible, was offered up as a burnt sacrifice to this vile goddess. You can read about it in the book of Kings, chapter 11, verses 1 to 7. It says that King Solomon loved many foreign women after his heart was led astray by the other women, including the daughter of Pharaoh, whom he married. For he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned his heart after other gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord who had chosen him. And the Lord said to Solomon, "Since this has been your practice, and you have acted like a king over Israel, doing kingship like the kings of Ammon, and doing evil things that the kings of Israel before you did, I will surely tear the kingdom from you and give it to your servant." The anger of the Lord rose greatly against Israel, and he delivered them up into the hands of Saul, king of the Assyrians. And he made them a province from the rise of Egypt until the Assyrians, for the fulfillment of the word of the Lord, which he spoke by Ahijah the Shilonite against the house of David. So the Lord raised up for himself a king over Israel in place of Solomon, to wit, Adad-nir, the son of Baasha. And concerning Solomon, the Lord said, "He may not enter into the kingdom of David. His offspring will be unruly in Israel. I will bring him calamity and destruction, and I will give Israel into the hand of his enemies and into the hand of his servants." Then Jezebel, the daughter of Rimmon, the wife of Ahab, persuaded Ahab to make her an image of Baal, and she called upon the name of her god. And Ahab built an altar in the temple of Baal and sent messengers to call Elijah the Tishbite. In another account, it tells how some sailors were caught in a storm at sea and they prayed to Astarte, the goddess of the Phoenicians, to save them. Their prayer to Astarte went like this: "O Astarte, mistress of heaven, thou that rulest the sea in thy wrath, appease thy raging. Thou that sendest the whirlwind and the tempest, hear thou our prayer and spare us, O Lady, that we may not perish, for thou art merciful." Now, you may be asking yourself, why does any of this matter? What does this Canaanite goddess have to do with me? Well, as I already mentioned, the Bible says that the sons of God married the daughters of men, which led to the Nephilim giants walking the earth. But did you know that before this, 235 years before the flood, these same sons of God worshipped female deities? They had idols in their homes with multiple sets of breasts. They even held festivals in her honor with wild dancing and drinking. And they were so depraved that when the Lord destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, he spared Lot's life only because he was a relative of Abraham and because he was righteous in his own eyes. No, just kidding. That last part is not true. Lot was wicked, but God spared him because he was related to Abraham. And while some people might think that this is just a myth or a legend, the archaeological record tells a different story. In 1929, an expedition uncovered a series of clay tablets that contained a collection of 36 ancient hymns to the goddess Anat, another name for Astarot. The leader of the excavation team named them the Baal cycle after the god Baal, who is Anat's consort. The Baal cycle describes a world much like Genesis, a time when there was chaos. Then came the gods and created order. And this creation was presided over by Anat, the supreme goddess. She was the highest in the pantheon of gods and the chief object of worship in Ugarit. At times, she was called the Lady of the Lands, for she was supreme over all. Her symbol was the star. She was represented in the form of a woman having two scythes in her hands, or a sword in each hand, with wings behind her back and wearing a long robe. The Lady of the Lands is also called the Lady of Eshmun, referring to the moon. On her head is a crown with 12 stars. This could refer to the 12 signs of the zodiac. In some reliefs, she has 4 stars on her shoulders. These seem to represent the 4 quarters of the sky: north, south, east, and west. She is sometimes shown holding the fish, representing the equinoxes. The Ugaritic texts show that Anat was a war goddess, often taking on the enemies of her consort, Baal. She was also a fertility goddess, presiding over the generation of all living creatures. As such, she was also a patroness of pregnant women. One hymn states that she made children to fill the world, saying, "Anat made man and woman, placed them in the garden, and gave them children." The fertility aspect of Anat is also evident in a text known as the Baal and Anat. In this text, Anat goes out in search of her husband, Baal, who has been slain by his brother Yam, god of the seas. When she finds him on the mountain of death, she revives him and conceives him. This conception causes the creation of all living beings, plants and animals, as well as mankind. It should be noted that Anat was not the only deity that the Canaanites worshipped. They also revered a god by the name Baal. Baal was originally a Canaanite weather god and the consort of Anat. In later periods, he was syncretized with various deities, such as Hadad, the Syrian storm god, and Melkart, the Phoenician god of the sea. Baal was associated with fertility and was often called upon to bless crops and livestock. He was also seen as a protector of the weak and oppressed. The Canaanites believed that Baal would deliver them from their enemies and help them in times of need. The Bible gives us an account of an altar that was built to Baal, but it seems that the person who built it didn't do such a good job. In 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 3, it says that Solomon built an altar for the burning of incense in front of the Lord's temple. But he also built high places, an abomination to the Lord. What makes this account interesting is that the Hebrew word for high places is mizbevet, plural of mizbeva, which means high place or altar. The word mizbeva comes from the root, which means to raise or exalt. In other words, Solomon built altars to Baal. This is confirmed by 2 Chronicles chapter 11 verse 17, which states that Manasseh rebuilt the altars that Solomon built for Baal in the high places, even burnt incense on them. So what do you think of this, the gods and goddesses of the Canaanites? What do you think of their beliefs and practices? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Before we go, I just want to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to click like and subscribe. Until next time, stay strong.